Hey, sixth grade artists, are we ready to get started on this week's art class? I hope you are, because I know I am. So just to recap, last week we talked about value and shading, and we used pencil to create interesting types of gradation in our value. That was for our value string cheese project. This week we're going to be working on onomatopoeias. So an onomatopoeia is a word that sounds like what it means. Like drip sounds like a water droplet coming and ready to drip down, or buzz sounds like a bee that's already buzzing around. So I want you to pick a word that sounds like what it means and get ready to draw it in 2-point perspective. 2-point perspective is when you have 2 points on the edge of your paper that come out and meet towards the middle. So it looks like it's coming out at you in 3D. So I hope you're ready to get started, because I know I am. Let's go. Let's get started on our onomatopoeia projects. So the first thing that we need to do is collect all of our materials. So we need a piece of paper. Computer paper works just fine if you don't have art paper. We also need a ruler, a pencil, a Sharpie, markers, crayons, or colored pencils if you'd like. And we're going to need a pair of scissors. The first thing we need to do is fold our paper in half because it needs to be the right size. So I'm just going to take my paper, fold it edge to edge, and use my nail to make sure it has a nice fold. Now that I have a nice fold, I want to cut this paper in half because I only need half the paper. So use those scissors to cut. So now we have a nice half sheet of paper. We need to first make sure that we have our onomatopoeia word. For this project, I'm going to think of an onomatopoeia word that I want to use. So I have a couple in mind. I think I want to either do buzz, drip, or crack. But I think I'm leaning towards buzz. So now that I've chosen my word, I can get started on my project. We talked about 2-point perspective, right? So I need to create 2 points on both sides of my paper. What I need to do is take my ruler and measure the sides. So my paper is 6 inches going down. So I know that halfway is 3 inches. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Make a little tick where the 3-inch mark is. Now I can take those 2 lines and draw a straight line going across. Okay, nice straight line. Now I want to do the same thing, but on this side. So let's see how long it is. So mine is 9 inches, so that means that halfway is 4.5 inches. So I want to do the same thing on the top, find the 4.5 inches. Okay, and the same thing I'm going to do is connect my lines. So from tick to tick. There we go. So this is the beginning part of my project. So this should be sketched pretty lightly. I should be able to erase this when I'm finished. After we have our nice cross in the middle, we need to connect this point to this point. So I'm going to take my ruler, line up the points together, and draw a straight line going across. So I'll do that for the next 3 sections, connecting point to point. And so there we go. Now I have this beautiful square. So the next thing is to take my onomatopoeia word and divide it in the middle. So I should have equal letters on both sides. I want the BU on one side and then the ZZ on the other side. So this middle line is going to act like my divider. So I need to put half on this side, half on this side. If you have an odd number of letters like crack, what you can do is make your A come in the middle and your CR on one side and CK on the other side. So my A would be right here, my CR would be on this side, and my CK on this side. I want to start pretty close to my edge, and I'm going to just draw my letters like if I'm writing. I want to make sure I'm touching the top of my line as well as the bottom of my line when I'm writing my letters. After I have my letters mapped out, I want to make them a little bit thicker. So I'm going to draw a box letter. And then I can erase my inside line. So as I'm drawing, I'm erasing the lines that are crossing through my box letters because they don't exist anymore. Now that I have my letters all boxed out and vibrant, I want to create this onomatopoeia to look like a bee. What I want to do is actually make a bee in the background kind of floating around the letters. And so in cartoons you see that bees almost have a tiny trail of lines following them. So I'm going to do that. So I have my bee, I have my buzzing lines, and now I want to make this look like a beehive. So now I have my beehive, my bee. So now that I have my fantastic drawing and I'm ready to work on the coloring of it, I want to make sure that I erase the X behind it. So all these lines that were holding it together, I don't need them right now. So just the cross. Okay, so for mine, I'm going to be using Sharpie first to outline all my lines except my B. I want to keep him in colored pencil, but everything else can be outlined in a thick Sharpie, and some of my smaller details like my my hive can be outlined in a thin Sharpie. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. If you're also feeling the same way, maybe you have an animal or something with a lot of detail, you want to wait to outline that last using a thin Sharpie. going to use a thin Sharpie for my honey hive. Okay, now that I have everything outlined, I'm going to erase my pencil marks in the places that I need to before I start to color. So I just did my beehive. Now I'm going to take a thin Sharpie and work on my bumblebee. Now that everything's traced in my project, everything except these lines, which I didn't want to trace, I'm going to take an eraser and erase everything before I start to color. So that means every pencil mark is going to be gone so that it looks nice and clean. So now that all my pencil marks are completely erased, I can start to color in my project. So everything should be colored. It shouldn't be black and white. Although it looks super cool, I'm going to add some interesting colors using colored pencil and maybe even some markers. So I hope you enjoy my coloring. As I was coloring, I got inspired by my beehive to create a honeycomb pattern on my U, my Z, and my Z. So I'm going to try to do that with colored pencils, so hopefully it comes to life the way that I'm expecting it to. But sometimes you'll find inspiration as you're coloring and you'll think, wow, I should add this or I should add that. And if you can, you should totally go for it. So I'm going to see if I can create this honeycomb pattern. Now that I finished all my coloring, the last thing I need to do is color in these kind of buzz lines where my bee was flying. And there's my onomatopoeia. My buzz with my bee, my 2 honey hives, and some honeycomb to add some extra detail. So your onomatopoeias should have a beautiful conceptualized idea where you take the word and think about what does it mean to you, how can you make it come to life and come off the page, just like my buzz did. If you have any questions, you can always email me. I hope you have a great rest of your day, 6th grade, and happy creating.